Welcome to our channel, where incredible stories unfold every day. If you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss out on the next amazing tale. We're thrilled to have you with us, and we'd love to hear from you. Drop a comment below and let us know where you're watching from. Your thoughts and feedback mean the world to us. So sit back, relax, and get ready for today's story that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Stay tuned for more exciting stories every day. The shocking truth behind a man thought to be dead for 50 years. It was a quiet afternoon in Cedar Falls, Iowa, a small town where nothing much ever seemed to happen. Officer James Williams, a seasoned 38-year-old cop, had seen it all. From reckless drivers to expired registrations and the occasional lost pet, he had experienced the mundane and the bizarre. But today, his routine shift would be anything but ordinary. As he patrolled the sleepy streets, James noticed a vintage Chevrolet rolling slowly through a stop sign without a full stop. It wasn't much, just a small infraction, but it was enough to warrant a routine stop. He signaled for the car to pull over, his hands instinctively going to the radio and the ticket pad. The car came to a slow halt, and James stepped out, ready to do his job. Behind the wheel was an elderly man, possibly in his early 80s, dressed in a gray jacket and a worn cap that seemed to hold decades of history. His eyes were calm, but there was something about his presence that felt different. He looked every bit the part of an old-timer, someone who had lived through it all, but there was something else there, something deeper, an air of untold stories, hidden truths. James approached the car, tapping on the window to greet him. "Good afternoon, sir." "License and registration, please," he said, keeping his tone neutral, the words flowing easily as they always did in these situations. The man complied, reaching into the glove compartment and handing over the necessary documents. James glanced at them briefly, his eyes scanning for the usual discrepancies. But then his gaze froze. The name on the driver's license read Henry M. Barnes. The name struck him like a jolt of electricity. It wasn't just any name, it was the name of someone who had been declared dead more than 50 years ago, back in 1973. James's heart skipped a beat. He had heard the rumors, the whispers in the department about a missing government cryptographer, but he had never imagined he would find himself face to face with him. Confusion set in. How could this be? The man in front of him, this elderly driver, was supposed to be long gone. But here he was, calm and composed, with a name that shouldn't even exist? Was it a mistake? A clerical error? Or was there something more to this story? As he quietly stepped back to his car to run a background check, James had no idea that this routine stop would turn into one of the most shocking moments of his career. Officer James Williams stood there, the name Henry M. Barnes flashing on his screen. His hand trembled slightly as he reread the details. He couldn't believe it. Henry M. Barnes, the man sitting right in front of him, the elderly man with a calm demeanor, had been declared dead more than 50 years ago. The year was 1973, and Barnes had been part of a scandal that had rocked the government. It was an old case, long buried under layers of time. A cryptographer, they said, who had uncovered a major breach within the government, but his name had been wiped from the history books. James tried to steady his nerves, but the unsettling reality of the situation began to sink in. Was this just some mix-up? A mistake in the system? But that couldn't be. This wasn't just a simple case of mistaken identity. There was something much more dangerous here, something he wasn't prepared for. He glanced back at Barnes, who sat quietly, almost as if he knew exactly what was going through James's mind. His calm, composed face seemed out of place for a man who had been thought to be dead for half a century. There was a strange confidence about him, an air of knowing something James could barely comprehend. It was as if Barnes had been waiting for this moment, for James to uncover his secret. James's mind raced. Could this be the same Henry Barnes? The one rumored to have cracked codes for the government during the Cold War? The one whose death had never been fully explained? The rumors said he had been silenced, erased, because he had discovered a mole within the agency, a traitor leaking national secrets to foreign powers. Could it really be him? Shaking off his initial shock, James stepped back and took a deep breath. He needed answers, and he needed them now. Without thinking, He tapped into the police database, running a full check on the name. His fingers moved rapidly over the keys as he waited for the screen to load. What happened next made his blood run cold. The file came up with chilling clarity. Henry M. Barnes wasn't just a missing person. He was the central figure in a decades-old government scandal, a scandal that had cost lives and ruined careers. And now, here he was, sitting calmly in front of James, like a ghost from the past, with a story that was far from over. Before James could fully process the weight of this revelation, his radio crackled to life. "Officer Williams, return to your vehicle immediately. Do not detain the driver. Repeat, do not detain." But it was too late. James had already uncovered a truth he wasn't supposed to find, and Barnes, with a knowing smile, seemed to be waiting for this moment. James's heart raced as he stood there, staring at the screen. The name Henry M. Barnes was no longer just a relic from a past he had never lived. He was standing right in front of James, alive and breathing. The files that had just loaded told a terrifying story. This man, presumed dead, was at the heart of one of the most significant government scandals in recent history. For decades, the truth had been buried, hidden under layers of secrecy and silence. Now, it seemed like the moment of revelation had arrived. James's mind was spinning, trying to process the information. This wasn't just about a simple traffic stop anymore. It wasn't about a misplaced registration or a vintage car rolling past a stop sign. No, it was something much bigger. Barnes wasn't just some man who had slipped through the cracks. He had been deliberately erased. His involvement in exposing a traitor within the government, a mole leaking top-secret information, had cost him his life, or so the world had been told. But there he was, alive and sitting in the car, as if the years of hiding had been some cruel joke. Before James could process this any further, the radio in his patrol car crackled to life. "Officer Williams, return to your vehicle immediately. Do not detain the driver. Repeat, do not detain." The command was sharp, urgent, and with an authority that sent a chill down James's spine. He froze for a moment, the weight of the words sinking in. Why had the dispatcher called him off? What was going on? James glanced back at Barnes, who had not moved, not a hint of surprise or fear on his face. Instead, the old man simply smiled, a small, knowing smile that seemed to say he had been expecting this. Ignoring the order, James stepped toward his vehicle and called his captain. "Captain Harris, you need to get here now. This isn't what it seems." His voice was steady, but he knew that what he had uncovered was far beyond his pay grade. Within minutes, Captain Harris arrived, his face pale, his steps hurried as he approached Barnes. The sight was unnerving. Captain Harris didn't walk to him. He saluted. "Welcome home, sir," Harris said, his voice filled with reverence. James was frozen in place. This wasn't just a routine stop. It wasn't just about a mistake in the database. It was about something far bigger. Something that could change everything. And James was now caught in the middle of it, with no idea how deep this rabbit hole really went. The truth was unfolding before him, but it was only just beginning. Captain Harris stood there for a moment, frozen, his hand snapping up in a sharp salute. "Welcome home, sir," he said, his voice reverberating with an awe that sent a chill through James. The words hung in the air like a heavy fog, impossible to ignore. The man who had been presumed dead for over 50 years, the man who had uncovered a government mole and faked his own death, was now sitting in front of James, alive and well. James's mind raced. He had heard the whispers, the rumors of a high-ranking government cryptographer who had discovered a traitor within the ranks during the Cold War. Barnes, Henry M. Barnes, was the key to a massive government cover-up scandal. But the implications of this revelation were beyond anything James could have imagined. He had thought this was just a routine stop, just another case to file and forget. But now, the weight of history had crashed into him, and he was standing in the middle of it. Captain Harris's face, pale and strained, showed just how serious the situation was. He glanced at James before turning to Barnes with a respect that James had never seen before, even in the most formal of situations. It was clear this man wasn't just any retired government official. Barnes wasn't some forgotten relic of the past. He was a living legend, someone who had been part of something much larger than the life he was pretending to lead. Barnes, the cryptographer who had uncovered a mole inside the government, had made a decision decades ago. He had faked his own death to protect himself from those who would stop at nothing to silence him. His work was too dangerous, the information too volatile. The enemy was still out there, and Barnes had been hiding, living a life in the shadows, waiting for the moment to come forward. The world had never known the truth, and Barnes had lived under a new identity for half a century, hidden from those who once called him a hero. James, standing in disbelief, could hardly process the magnitude of what had just been revealed. His world, his simple life as a small-town cop, had just collided with the world of espionage and betrayal. Barnes's quiet smile seemed to say it all. The truth was finally coming to light, but it was only the beginning. The real story, the one that had been buried for so long, was about to be told, and James, for better or worse, was now part of it. Maybe it's time the truth comes out, Barnes said quietly, his voice filled with quiet resolve. And James knew, without a doubt, that nothing would ever be the same again. As James watched Captain Harris and Barnes exchange a few quiet words, the weight of the situation began to sink in. He had just discovered the man thought to be dead for 50 years was not only alive, but central to one of the most significant government scandals in history. Barnes, with his calm demeanor and stoic resolve, was the key to exposing a story that had been buried for decades. But the truth came with a price. As much as James wanted to understand more, he knew this wasn't a moment for curiosity. It was a moment for caution. "Get him to a secure location," Captain Harris ordered, his voice tense. The captain's usual air of authority was replaced by something else, a deep reverence for the man sitting in the car, the one who had walked through fire and come out the other side, alive. James nodded, his mind racing as he moved to assist. James couldn't shake the feeling that everything he had known up until that moment was now irrelevant. The world he had lived in, where things were clear-cut and easily explained, was nothing more than an illusion. The truth about Barnes and the government conspiracy was bigger than anything he had ever imagined. James was no longer just a cop enforcing the law. He was caught up in something far more dangerous, something that would change his life forever. As they carefully helped Barnes into the back of the patrol car, James couldn't help but feel the gravity of what he was witnessing. The old man, who had faked his death to protect himself from those who had betrayed him, was now taking the first steps to tell his story. A story that had been hidden for over 5 decades. A story that would reveal not just a personal history, but the lies that had been told to cover up the darkest secrets of the Cold War. Barnes glanced back at James, his eyes filled with quiet determination. "You've just uncovered something you weren't meant to see," he said, his voice low. "But maybe it's time the world knows the truth." James swallowed hard, realizing just how true those words were. The man sitting in the back seat wasn't just a witness to history. He had shaped it. And now it was time for the world to know what had really happened all those years ago. As the patrol car sped off toward the secure location, James couldn't shake the feeling that his life would never be the same. He had uncovered something so big, so profound, that there was no going back. And somewhere deep down, James knew this was just the beginning. The truth, no matter how buried, always finds a way to rise to the surface. If you've made it this far into the story, we want to hear from you. What do you think about the incredible journey we've just uncovered? The truth behind Henry M. Barnes and his secret life is nothing short of mind-blowing, and we know you have thoughts to share. Do you think Barnes made the right decision by hiding for all these years? What would you have done in his shoes? It's incredible to think how a simple traffic stop can unravel such a deep, hidden truth. And this is just the beginning. There's so much more to the story that's yet to be revealed. We want to hear your perspective on the twists and turns of this amazing story. Drop a comment below and let us know where you're watching from. We love seeing how far this story reaches and hearing from our audience. And don't forget, subscribing will keep you in the loop with more incredible stories just like this one. Every comment, like, and share helps us keep bringing these gripping tales to life. We're excited to hear your thoughts and discuss the mysteries of history that continue to unfold. Join the conversation, and let's keep this story going.